Hi, I'm William,
And I'm Kat,
and that makes this info on the go.
answering questions you maybe didn't want to know.
Ooh, I like it. You changed it up. Okay. So we want to welcome you to another one of our Halloween special series here.
Absolutely. Our spooky October episodes.
Yeah. So this episode of Info on the Go is going to be all about torture. Now we're not going to torture you in listening. We're going to torture you. Are we going to torture our listeners?
Not intentionally, maybe.
I love it. Actually, we're going to go over torture devices throughout history. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right. So we're going to start off with dunking stools. And these were chairs that were used in medieval Europe and later times for punishing disorderly women, scolds, and dishonest tradesmen. Not disorderly women. No.
Never disorderly women. Why would we be disorderly to a man's agenda? In any case,
I'm not a woman
these
and I'm not going to answer that, okay?
fair enough. These instruments of public humiliation were primarily used for the offenses of scolding or backbiting, and less frequently for sexual offenses like bearing an illegitimate child or prostitution.
Yeah. So these tools were technical devices that were part of the broader method of law enforcement.
Alternatives included court orders to recite one's crimes or sins after Mass or in the marketplace on market day, or informal actions such as skimmington ride.
The stools were typically of local manufacture. The stools were typically made local with no real standard design. Most were simple chairs into which the offender could be tied and exposed at her door or the side of her, or the site of her offense.
Hmm. Some were on wheels, like a tumbrel, which could be dragged around the parish.
Others were placed on poles so they could be plunged into water, hence the term dunking stool. Stocks or pillories were used for both men and women for punishment through humiliation, right?
So the other term for a dunking stool was called a cucking stool. It's older, with records dating back to the 13th and 14th centuries.
Written records of the name dunking stool appear from 1597 with a 1769 statement noting that dunking stool is a corruption of the term cucking stool.
While a cucking stool could be used for humiliation with or without dunking the person in water, the name dunking stool became more specifically associated with those cucking stools on an oscillating plank used to dunk the person in water.
Yeah, I think, I've never really heard it called the cucking stool. I've always heard it called the dunking stool, and that really makes more sense to me.
Right. But, we don't know Old English very well, so.
So the Brazen Bull, also called the Bronze Bull or the Sicilian Bull, was an ancient Greek execution device.
Pericles of Athens invented it and showed it to Phalaris, the tyrant of Argos.
So the bull was made entirely of bronze and had a door on one side. People condemned to die would be locked inside, and a fire would be set underneath the bull, basically roasting them alive.
Well, that's a different kind of smoking, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
The bowl had an acoustic system that turned the screams of the person inside into sounds like a bull's roar.
the steam from the person's cooking flesh exited through the bull's nostrils, making it look like the bull was alive.
This device was associated with Phalaris, but its true use is uncertain. It may have been more for intimidation than actual executions.
But I mean, that would be a horrible way to go.
There's a lot of horrible ways to go in these.
Yeah, in this episode for sure. But I mean, I'm thinking that Brazen Bull right now is my number one.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
that's definitely cooking up there. That's for sure.
You got to be punny in this one. Okay. So the breaking wheel, also known as the Catherine wheel, It was a brutal execution device used primarily in Europe from antiquity through the Middle Ages.
Well, it was used for a long time.
Yeah, it was used for a good little while.
The condemned person was typically tied to a large wooden or metal wheel, often spread eagled or face down.
And so the executioner would then use a heavy hammer or iron bar to break the victim's bones, usually starting with the limbs, inflicting extreme pain.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think breaking limbs is painless, so
No, it's not. I broke a couple of bones in my life.
I can't say the same. Well, maybe I can. I don't know. I never went and got x-rays, so
I'm going
who
to be
knows?
honest with you. A clean break is better than a fracture.
I have heard that. I have heard that, that's for sure.
I broke my leg in 7 different places, and the fractures, the clean breaks, like when they showed it to me, the clean breaks, those were not the pain points. The pain points were the places, and I didn't know this at the time, but anyway, yeah, clean breaks are much easier to handle.
Yeah. Well, in some cases, the wheel was rolled over the victim's body, crushing their bones and causing severe internal injuries.
Following
Mm.
the execution, the body might be left on the wheel for public display as a warning to others.
I wonder if crime rates really declined.
Yeah, I mean, torture though, I don't know.
There are some certain cases, even in today's age, that could be useful.
I would agree with that. There are certain crimes, and I'm not going to kind of spew my own thing here, but there are some crimes that are just, to me, that are unforgivable
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think a quick death is too easy.
for some. Absolutely.
In any case, the breaking wheel was reserved for particularly heinous crimes such as murder, treason, or heresy, serving as a grim reminder of the harshness of historical justice systems.
Murder and, well, I don't know, treason. I guess
Mm,
mm, no freedom of
tre-
speech there for sure.
no, yeah, no. And heresy, that's also in the eye of the beholder there. But murder for sure. I agree with murder.
Yeah. So next on our list here is crucifixion. And I think we're all kind of familiar with it, but we're going to dive into it. Crucifixion was a brutal method of execution used by various ancient civilizations, including the Persians, the Carthaginians, and Romans.
The condemned person was typically forced to carry the crossbeam of their cross to the execution site, where the upright pole was already fixed in the ground.
Yeah. So they were then stripped of their clothing, either at this point or earlier after being scourged or basically being whipped.
The victim's arms were bound or nailed to the crossbeam, and the crossbeam was raised and fixed to the upright pole, usually about 9 to 12 feet above the ground. The feet were then tightly bound or also nailed to the upright pole.
Yeah, so the death occurred through a combination of restricted blood circulation, organ failure, and asphyxiation as the body strained under its own weight.
Mm. And sometimes the executioner would shatter the victim's legs with an iron club to hasten death by making breathing more difficult and accelerating asphyxiation.
So crucifixion was typically reserved for political or religious agitators, slaves, and those without civil rights. I think the most famous of the crucifixion would be Jesus, but crucifixion, if you were to come into Rome, there would be hundreds of crucified bodies coming in as a warning to those entering the city.
Yeah, Rome was wild. Okay.
Yeah,
Rome was mm,
it's on the shopping list. I saw it.
fair enough. All right, so the next up we got the garrote, which was a method of execution that involved strangulation using a ligature such as a rope, wire, or cord.
So the condemned person was typically seated or bound to a chair, and then garrote was applied around the neck.
A stick or lever was then used to tighten the ligature, cutting off blood flow to the brain and causing death by strangulation. Kind of like a tourniquet, but for your neck.
Yeah, I was gonna say, imagine. Oh, so the garrote was used in various cultures, including Spain and Portugal, and was considered a more merciful alternative to other forms of execution, like burning. You know, just looking at this, I think I would rather have the garrote than the brazen bull or crucifixion.
Yeah, yeah, this was definitely, as you said, merciful.
More humane, maybe.
But yeah,
Not that it's humane. I'm just saying
I
more
mean,
more humane than the other three that we mentioned. That breaking wheel, I don't even want to touch that thing.
no, no, you're right. So next up is the head crusher. This metal device featured a plate that sat below the victim's jaw, which was connected by a frame to a head cap.
As the torturer slowly twisted the handle, the gap between the head cap and plate decreased, crushing the skull, including the teeth, mandible, and facial bones, ultimately inducing death.
Even if the torturer stopped before death, permanent damage to the facial muscles and structure would have occurred. And there's no plastic surgeons back in them days, so if you did
Mm.
stop, you're permanently disfigured, probably have a hard time eating, and you may be missing some teeth.
Or yeah, and man, think about it. If you broke your jaw back then, I don't think there was any kind of liquid diet.
Nope. Nope, that guy
Mm.
was just gonna heal whatever way it was gonna heal.
Yeah.
You had to hope for the best.
Mm. So the victim's head would slowly be crushed, killing the victim, but not before the victim's jaw had been crushed and their eyes possibly popped out of their sockets.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not digging this one.
No, so the garrote's kind of looking like if I had to go, that's probably going to be the way I would want to do it.
Right. To aggravate the pain, the torturer master would sometimes amuse himself by tapping on the metal cap with a small hammer. Oh, well, that's nice.
Oh my gosh. Like I felt that headache. Like as soon as you mentioned the hammer,
Ding.
uh
Mm.
some variations had a receptacle in the front of the to catch the eyes if they popped out of the victim's sockets there.
Oh,
Well, you
that's
didn't want them to
that's.
hit the floor. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
I suppose if you don't want to accidentally step on them or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
That's. Mm.
That one's probably the worst one. Well, I don't know. The Brazen Bulls, they're all pretty bad.
I mean, eh, between the two, they're both pretty bad. I mean, I'm not sure which one's going to be faster.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Which one would be faster? The Brazen Bull, you would have to wait till that thing heated up, and you would basically be cooked alive.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather do the jaw thing. At least if the guy stopped, worst case scenario, I'm disfigured. And that Brazen Bull, I'm not. I'm done.
Ugh. Yeah. Yeah. I guess there's that. There's small silver linings, I suppose, right?
I feel so bad for the people that had to endure these.
Yeah. Next up, moving on, is the Iron Maiden, which was notorious for its torture methods, though its actual use in medieval times is debated.
Yeah, it was a human-sized box lined with sharp spikes on the inside.
And the victim was placed inside, and the door was shut, driving the spikes into their body.
So the spikes were short enough to cause a slow, agonizing death by bleeding out rather than, it being immediate.
Mhm. And despite its fearsome reputation, historical evidence suggests that the Iron Maiden may not have been used as widely as popularity believes, with the first written references appearing in the late 1700s.
Well, sometimes they would just put this stuff out there like propaganda and say, hey, we have this device.
Just an intimidation factor.
So next up, we have keelhauling. And this was a form of punishment for sailors, where the victim was tied to a line beneath a ship. thrown overboard and dragged under the keel.
That doesn't sound like fun times either.
No.
It dates back to the ancient Greeks around 700 BC, who mentioned it in the Rhodian Maritime Code for piracy. Ooh. This was a pirate's torture.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So so while some evidence suggests it was used on pirate ships, records from English naval history are vague and really lack firm evidence.
Well, if we're following pirates, they probably didn't really want to talk about it.
No,
In the Dutch Navy, keelhauling was sometimes used, with one notable incident occurring in 1652 under Jan van Riebeck's command, where a sailor was keelhauled and severely punished for desertion. Oh,
yeah.
well, that's I don't know. I don't find that worthy. That doesn't seem worthy to me.
Yeah, not for desertion. I mean, of a pirate ship. I mean, like, hey, whatever.
There, there are worse offenses, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, I guess he was in the Dutch Navy. He wasn't a pirate. So he was like, hey, I don't want to be in the Navy no more. And they're like, oh, no, we're going to do this to you. So the practice was rare and really often served as a deterrent. So basically, they said, this can happen.
I still believe in special cases like, things that happen today, a deterrent
I,
might be really good.
there are some ship captains out there that did it.
Oh, for sure. They
Yeah,
just didn't want to talk about it.
absolutely.
All right, next up in our lineup is the rack, which was a torture device used at the Tower of London, a royal palace that also served as a prison. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. It's and it was the Tower of London, man, it has a huge deep history.
I bet it's haunted.
I would almost guarantee it is. Starting in the 15th century, the yeoman waters who worked at the tower used a rag to pull on ropes tied to a victim's wrist and ankles. So basically, they would be tied to their wrist and their ankles, and they would basically kind of pull them apart.
Yeah, yeah, this stretched the body and dislocated the victim's joints, as a
Yeah,
matter of fact.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking here. So the yeoman waiters used the rack on people suspected of treason and religious heresy to try to get them to confess and give up the names of other conspirators. I We really need to do that episode on if torture is effective.
Yes, yes.
Because if you're under torture, you're going to be giving up all kind of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't find those to be worthy reasons.
No.
Not at all. Mm. One famous victim was the English writer and Protestant preacher Anne Askew.
In 1546, yeoman waiters tortured her on the rack and asked her to name Protestant sympathizers.
Well, and after she refused, didn't give anybody up, one of those girls to the end, all that good stuff, officials burned her at the stake. Surprise. Because the torture made her unable to walk, they had to carry her to her execution. Another, ooh, shocker.
Yeah, that's crazy. And Kat, I'll say before we get into the next torture device here, we take a small break.
Sounds good to me.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Looking for your favorite band, team, or TV show, maybe that movie? Since 1969, Old Glory has been the ultimate destination for officially licensed merchandise, with over 300,000 items in music, sports, movies, TVs, and popular culture. And you have Christmas coming up. Have that hard to find person that you're looking for? Check out Old Glory. At checkout, use our exclusive listener discount code and get 15% off any product. All you have to do is put InfoGo in at checkout. That's InfoGo at oldglory.com. You can find the link in the show notes.
Are you too hot at night? Well, say hello to the world's softest sheets. Cozy Earth's bamboo sheet set keeps you cool, dry, and comfy all night long. It's made from bamboo. They're moisture wicking, breathable, and get even softer with every wash. Did you even know that you can make sheets out of bamboo? I didn't. I thought that was awesome. And they have pajama sets. Pure cozy elegance, stylish, silky, praised on Good Morning America and in style, and backed by thousands of five-star reviews. You can't beat the 100-night sleep trial and free shipping on over $50, plus a 10-year warranty for sheets. 41% off any product with code INFOGO at cozyearth.com. Make sure you find the link in the show notes.
And now that we're back, so we're going to talk about the scavenger's daughter. So, have you ever heard of this one?
Mm-mm.
During the 16th and 17th centuries, yeoman waiters at the Tower of London also used the scavenger's daughter as a torture device.
And this was a metal frame that compressed the victim's body in on itself. Oh.
Yeah, so the compression from the scavenger's daughter was so intense it could apparently cause the victim to start bleeding from the nose, mouth, and other parts of the body or orifices. You use your imagination there.
Mm. This gruesome form of torture could result in death.
No, you think so?
I mean, that doesn't sound very comfy, that's for sure.
So next up we have the thumbscrew torturers. And they used the thumbscrew, which was another pain-inflicting device from Europe's early modern period, from around about 1450 to 1750, and it would basically crush a person's fingers or thumbs.
Oof. Similarly to the rack, torturers employed the thumbscrew as a means of punishment and an attempt to elicit a confession. The thumbscrew was also known as a thumbkin, with many spelling variations.
Mm, thumbkin.
At least that one didn't necessarily end in death.
Yeah, but I mean, it would probably render
Your hand's useless.
yeah, I mean, if it's your thumb, think about that. You no longer have a thumb.
Right.
Uh, there's so many things you have to do with your thumb. Like it would really make life hard. Uh,
I may take my thumb for granted.
yeah, absolutely. Next up, we have the pair of anguish, and I know you've heard of this one.
Oof.
It's a device that early modern Europeans labeled as a medieval torture device.
Supposedly, a torturer would insert a device into a person's mouth or other orifices in the southern regions, causing extreme pain.
However, scholars have really questioned whether these devices originated in the Middle Ages, a period that ended somewhere around 1450.
That does not sound like a fun time. Existing examples of the so-called pair of anguish contain coiled springs, which suggests the people who crafted them lived during the early modern period that followed the Middle Ages.
Scholars have really kind of debated on how this device would really function the way that it was actually described as an orifice widening torture device.
Uh,
Well, I mean, if you've seen it, it kind of looks like a pear and it has a screw, and as you screw the screw, it opens up.
yeah, but it doesn't. Nope, you can break my fingers and my thumbs. Okay, I'll
I'm
I'll
leaning
I'll
more toward that.
sacrifice some fingers.
Yeah, I'm leaning more toward that. What is that thing?
The
The gar-
garrote.
Yeah, I'm leaning more toward the garrote. I don't know though. I guess yeah. If it was death, I'd go for the garrote. If it's something that yeah, break some fingers. I think I'd deal with that better.
Next up in our lineup is the strappado, also called corda. And it's a form of torture where the victim's hands are tied behind their back and they are suspended by a rope attached to their wrists, often resulting in dislocated shoulders. Eek.
The weights can be weights can be added to increase the pain. This torture typically doesn't last more than an hour without rest, as it could lead to death. So basically, this was really a torture device that was meant to torture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's also known as reverse hanging or Palestinian hanging and il tormento del corda.
It was used by the medieval Inquisition and various governments, including the civil law court of the Order of St. John in Valletta, Malta.
Properly applied, the strappado causes permanent but unseen damage. Yeah. The level of pain and resistance varies depending on the victim's weight and any additional weights added to their body.
So big people like me are in big trouble.
Mm-hmm.
What about psychological torture methods, though? We haven't really covered any of those yet.
Nope, we've just covered a fair amount of physical ones.
Yeah. I
Let's
think,
let's roll on into those just the brain ones.
yeah, let's do it.
All right, so first up we got Chinese water torture, and it's also referred to as the use of a dripping machine, which involves the slow dripping of cold water onto a person's scalp, forehead, or face over a long period.
This already sounds painful to me. This process is mentally excruciating, causing fear and mental deterioration.
Yeah, deterioration.
Deterioration, all right. Causing fear and mental deterioration in the subject.
The drops often fall at an angular pattern, and the cold sensation is jarring, leading to anxiety as the person tries to anticipate the next drop.
Despite its name, this method did not originate in China and is not traditional in any part of Asia.
So, the earliest known instance was documented by Hippolytus de Marsilius in Bologna, which is now Italy, during the late 15th or early 16th century.
It became widely used in Western countries and was popularized by Harry Houdini in the early 20th century. I don't know about you, but the slow drip of water, trying to anticipate when it's going to hit you, would be mentally exhausting.
You know, yeah, in theory, it doesn't sound that annoying, but in practice, that's like waking up and your ceiling is dripping on you.
Or have you ever lived in a bad apartment with the faucet dripped in the bathroom and you're trying to sleep at night? Drip, drip, drip. It is torture.
My bathtub drips.
Yeah, it's torture,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially when you can hear it. And then sometimes the psychology of it, like it dripped, but it didn't.
Right.
I don't know how
Right.
to explain it. Like it's that to me, that's rough.
All right. So the next one is a mock execution, which is a method of psychological torture in which a victim is deliberately but falsely made to believe that their execution or that of another person is imminent or actually taking place.
Yeah, I don't know how that would work. I mean, I know how it would. I don't know how I would feel in a situation like that. This may involve tactics such as blindfolding the suspect, telling them that they are about to die, making them recount last wishes, forcing them to dig their own grave, holding an unloaded gun to their head and pulling the trigger, or just but shooting at the victim or near the victim, but not really hitting the victim, or basically just firing blanks at them.
Well, the fear induced by mock executions can be profound, causing significant psychological trauma.
Oh, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, this trauma can manifest as depression, anxiety disorders, post traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, and other mental issues.
Well, the sheer terror of being led to believe that one's life is about to end can have lasting and devastating effects on the mind.
Well, I mean, think about it. You're being led out to the firing squad. You're tied to the pole like you see in the movies. You're blindfolded, and people shoot blanks at you.
That too does not sound like a fun time.
No, I imagine that would have some profound, lasting effects on a person,
For sure. For sure. For sure.
for sure. Um, Solitary confinement. And this is a form of imprisonment where an incarcerated person is placed in a single cell with minimal or no contact with others.
Yeah, sometimes your own brain just makes you go crazy. This punitive measure is used within a prison system to discipline or separate inmates who are deemed security risks to other prisoners or staff, as well as those who violate facility rules or are considered disruptive.
It can also serve as a protective custody for an individuals or individuals whose safety is threatened by other prisoners. Wait, hang on. It can also serve as protective custody for an individual whose safety is threatened by other prisoners, separating them from the general population to prevent harm or death.
That depends on what you did for me.
Yeah, to me, solitary confinement is still used in the United States prison systems. To me, that's a double-edged sword. I don't know. I mean, to your point, kind of depends on the crime. Does the punishment meet the crime? In other cases, like how long should solitary confinement be for? What is that serving to that person? I mean, when you hear stories about people coming out of prison that were in solitary confinement for long periods of time, it really has a it really degrades them mentally.
Right.
Especially so, solitary confinement can be multiple things, right? You can have the lights on all the time where the person can't sleep, or put them on a concrete floor where they don't have any kind of cover or bedding or something like that. I mean, there's all different types of it, but just being by yourself, I don't know.
Right. Well, extensive research has demonstrated that solitary confinement has severe negative psychological, physical, and neurological effects on those subjected to it, often persisting long after the confinement ends.
Yeah. So while corrections officials argue that solitary confinement is essential for maintaining the safety and security of prisons and jails, many medical and mental health and legal organizations have really criticized the practice and advocate for it as a significant reduction.
Hmm.
I mean, to your point, it really depends on the crime. It's another tool that these officers can use in prison to help maintain these prisoners.
So next up in our list is a scold's bridle, also known as a witch's bridle, gossip bridle, Brank's bridle, or simply Branks, and it was a device used for punishment and public humiliation.
Yeah, so you really kind of got to picture this. It's an iron muzzle within the framework that enclosed the head, and some versions depicted suffering.
Hmm. A bridle bit or curb plate measuring about 5 centimeters by 2.5 centimeters or 2 inches by 1 inches was inserted into the mouth and pressed down on the tongue, often with a spike to prevent the wearer from speaking.
So, yeah, oh. mm. So the use of the scold's bridle caused various unpleasant side effects, such as excessive saliva coming out of the mouth and mouth fatigue.
Hmm. Hmm. To add to the humiliation, a bell could be attached to the device to attract attention and draw crowds.
Could you imagine walking down the street with one of these things on and the bell's just like ringing, like, oh my man. And not only that, there's a spike through your tongue.
No.
Those were often used for people that would lie, or, something along those lines.
Right.
Women were really the target of that.
Shocker.
No, not women. The shrew's fiddle, also known as a neck violin, is a variation of a yoke, pillory, or rigid irons where the wrists are locked in front of the person by a hinge board or steel bar. So basically, your hands kind of stick out even with your head. And imagine, you know what I'm talking about. You got like this. Let's imagine a piece of wood, and it's got cutouts for you. Just have your arms locked in there, your hands rather, and your neck. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? Okay.
Hmm.
I'm trying
I'm
to
thinking
describe
like the
this.
stockade.
Yes, that's exactly what it looks like.
It was originally used in the Middle Ages to punish those caught bickering or fighting.
Yeah, in medieval Germany and Austria, the shrew's fiddle was called a Halsgag, meaning neck viola or neck violin.
It was made from two pieces of wood with a hinge and a lock in the front. And the shrew's fiddle had three holes.
Yeah, so one was for the neck and two other smaller ones to fasten the wrist in front of the face.
A bell was sometimes attached to the portable pillory to alert townspeople that the victim was approaching, so they could be mocked and humiliated. Oh, this was the board you walked around with.
Yeah, this is not the one that was like stable. This is the one you moved around with.
Yeah.
Um, Another version of this was the double fiddle, which attached two people face to face, forcing them to talk to each other until they resolved their argument.
You know,
That
I,
might not be a bad idea.
I'm gonna have to disagree there, but only because I was literally duct taped to my brother because we couldn't stop fighting.
My mom used to make me and my brother hug each other and kiss each other on the cheek when we fought.
Oh,
Oh,
interesting.
man.
You didn't have to share a t-shirt either?
No, we didn't do any of that. Uh,
Well, it seems like that is the end of this list of torture devices. If you'd like to hear some more, we'll find some more.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can kind of talk about what they were used for, maybe in some later episodes, maybe break them down, do some dashes, and talk about exactly what they were used for. But we thought it's Halloween. Why not throw in some torture devices and kind of tell you about them?
Right, right. Because there's plenty more out there. This is just a very small list.
This is an extremely small list because there are tons out there.
But,
Some are going to require some more in-depth commentary than what we put in this one. That's
excuse
pretty
me.
much all I've got, Kat.
Me too. If you would like to support this podcast,
Click the support link in the show notes.
William and I want to thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you for listening.
Join the Facebook group at Info on the Go
Share with us your show ideas.
or ask us a question.
Subscribe and follow us wherever you get your podcast.
Send us a text using the link in the show notes or leave a review.
It does help others find us. You can also email us at.
Info on the Go podcast at gmail.com.
Till next time.
Stay curious.